So in terms of the subject that we have been discussing from these Seedling Sutras on dependent arisings, after having explained the dependent arising of outer external world, then next is explanations of the dependent arising of inner world. And in relation to that, then we start with explanation of 12 dependent link. And within the 12 dependent link, how each of link lead to the next link. Who are in the first link in more detailed explanation, having explained about what those 12 link. And the first link is ignorance. And in terms of ignorance, then the Buddha explains, the ignorance of Four Noble Truth, basically. Even though, even though all the conditioned phenomena, are impermanent, we misperceive to be a permanent, even though all the contaminated experience are natural suffering, we misperceive them to be happiness. That's one misperception, ignorance. The ignorance, yeah. And even though our samsaric body is impure, but then again we misperceive to be pure, and then while all phenomena are empty of selfless and empty of inherent existence, but we misperceive them to exist inherently, and we misperceive to have a self, inherent existing self, and so that is the ignorance, I think, we talk about, and especially these are the ignorance, and especially in 12 link, the ignorance of misperceiving the self and phenomena to exist inherently or truly is the ignorance. That's the root of all the attachments, aversions, anger, and all other delusions. So I think that is where, in terms of the sutra itself, if we follow page number 7, where it explains, so having explained what is that ignorance, then the presence of such ignorance brings desire or attachments, aversions or anger, and delusion towards objects. So other delusions such as jealousy, pride or arrogant, greediness, miserliness, bitterness, resentful, grudges, all those different afflictive emotions or delusions, so all this arises because of that ignorance. Because of that ignorance, it all comes to ignorance. The desire attachment is also mistaken mind, that exaggerate more desirable quality into the object than that there is. On the other hand, the anger is again exaggerating mind of exaggerating more negative qualities into the object than there is, and that anger is the mind that is, harsh mind, harsh mind. So that is where such desire, aversions, and the delusion towards objects are the formations caused by the ignorance. So here is explained. Second link is karmic formations. Okay, second link is karmic formations. So here what is saying, due to that ignorance, then desire or attachments, aversions and anger and other delusions arises. And due to arising of those afflictive emotions, then you are already creating a karma or karmic actions or karmic formations mentally. Just by having a strong attachment or desire, just by having a strong anger, or just by having a strong, jealousy, just by having that, even you don't act those negative emotions with your speech and physical action, just by having those negative emotions, you have already created karma by the mind, karmic formations, And on top of that, sometimes not only we have those emotions arises, then we act those emotions. Then when we have attachment, in order to get the object of attachment, sometimes we lying, So then you create negative karma mentally and verbally. Okay? And sometimes not only you lie, then you use your force to snatch, to steal the object that you are attached to. Then you create not only negative karma mentally, verbally, and physically. Now you create negative karma through all three doors. In the same way, when you have strong anger, hatred, just by having that, we create negative karma mentally. Even you don't act. But sometimes we get angry and hateful, and then out of that, then we use very harsh speech that hurts and harms someone. Very, very strong, harsh speech. And when you use that harsh speech, then we create negative karma, not only on mental level, but also mentally and verbally. And sometimes we are not satisfied with that harsh speech. Sometimes then after that harsh speech, then we physically become violent, aggressive and violent. We act aggressively and violently. In that sense, then again, when we do that, then we create negative karma mentally, verbally, and physically. So, and that is what is karmic formations, you know. So, where was that? Yeah, are the karmic formation caused by ignorance. So that is why those karmic formation actions by one of the three doors or two of the three doors or all three doors are caused by the ignorance. Caused by the ignorance. Okay? So therefore the ignorance produce the second link karmic formations. When we talk about karmic formation, it is not always necessarily just verbally or physically. It can be mentally. Even we don't say anything bad, even we don't act anything bad, but when we have such a anger and strong attachment and jealousy, so forth, just by having those mental state, we are creating the negative karma. We are creating negative karma. When you think of that, it's a little bit kind of scary. You know how much negative karma we create. Sometimes we only think negative karma. Oh, I didn't say anything bad. I didn't act. I didn't act cruel. I wasn't mean. I wasn't mean. I tried to be calm. I tried to be nice. I wasn't mean. You know. But again, inside there is so much anger. There's so much hatred, and even verbally and physically, you are trying to control them, and you are trying to be restraining them. But still, by having that mental state, we are creating negative karma. Of course, that negative karma is less. That negative karma is lighter than when you actually act that negative karma. That state of mind, when you act, then it becomes more powerful, because then we act with the speech, then it's two negative karma. Then we act with that also verbally, not only verbally but physically, then it becomes three negative karma through all three. So it is a less negative karma in relation to that, but still you are creating negative karma. And the reason is because of that ignorance. Because of that ignorance. And therefore, that is how the ignorance produces karmic formations. And then that karmic formations lead to the third link, the link of consciousness. So that is here in the Sutra. It says that which distinguish between individual objects is the consciousness. The consciousness here is the third link. Okay, the third link that karmic formations produce or create the third link of the consciousness. And what is the consciousness? And consciousness is the subject, the mind, that has the ability to distinguish, different objects, from being red to blue or black to white, small shape to big shape, to be able to distinguish the iPad from the book, the text, to be able to distinguish the persons from the non-being, so that the mind has that ability to distinguish the consciousness. That is the consciousness. So when it comes to the third link, it will come later too, when it go even more detailed. Then it is a moment of that mental. When we talk about third link, we are not talking about all the consciousness, not all the moment of consciousness. All the moment of consciousness are not the third link. you know. Our eye consciousness, which we are all the time, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, the mouth consciousness, the bodily consciousness, they are not the third link consciousness. The third link consciousness is the mental consciousness. And even mental consciousness, not all the mental consciousness. It refers to the moment of consciousness when this karmic imprint is left or implanted in that consciousness. That moment of consciousness is the third link. Are we clear? Yeah. The Buddhas has the consciousness, but that consciousness, mental consciousness, is not the third link. A high level of the bodhisattvas and arhat, they also have consciousness. That consciousness is not the, even though it has the this characteristic of distinguishing between individual objects, but that is not the third link. The third link of consciousness is the moment of the consciousness, and when the moment that karmic imprint is planted in consciousness. That moment of consciousness, there is a, you create the karma in the moment. In the moment you create the karma, contaminated karma or negative karma, one of those. And the moment that karma is created, the karmic seed is planted in mental consciousness. And that moment when that karmic seed is planted in the consciousness, that moment of mental consciousness that carried that karmic seed that has been planted at that moment is the third link. Are we clear? So not all the consciousness are third link. So we have to, when we talk about all these 12 links, they're all samsaric. So, okay, so we will come also later. So that is the third. So that is because once you create the karma, then from that very moment, that karmic seed or imprint is planted. Okay? Where is that karmic seed or is planted is in that consciousness. Where this karmic seed is planted, the karmic seed is planted into the mental consciousness. Consciousness, not only consciousness, mental consciousness. And that mental consciousness, moment of that consciousness that has been just planted by that is the third link, okay? And then next one, consciousness and the four appropriated aggregates that emerge in conjunctions with it are the name and form. So that is the fourth link. Third consciousness, the third link, the link of consciousness create or produce the fourth link, name and form of the name, or name and the form. Name and the form. So what is the name and the form? What is the name and the form? So those are the contaminated 5 aggregates. Okay? Contaminated 5 aggregates. Not all 5 aggregates are the third link, no, fourth link. Okay? The Arhat has those 5 aggregates. Even the Buddhas have 5 aggregates. High Bodhisattva have 5 aggregates, but those aggregates are not the fourth link because they are beyond the samsara. They are not contaminated. This aggregate, the 12 links are all aggregate, contaminated. So when you say name and form, the form refers to physical body aggregates, okay, form, physical form or physical body aggregates. And the name here, name and form, the name here refer to those contaminated 4 aggregates. The aggregate of feeling, the aggregate of discriminating mind, the aggregate of discompositional factor mind, and the aggregate of consciousness. Those four, which are part of consciousness, you know. So name and form. The form refers to the physical aggregate, contaminated physical aggregate, and the name refers to those four other contaminated four other aggregates. And that is produced because of karmic seed to take a rebirth in the samsara is planted in the consciousness. And when the condition come together, that karmic seed in the consciousness is fully activated and produce a rebirth on new life. And when you start a new life, then you start with name and form. And that is how consciousness produce the name and the form aggregates. Okay? If you have any doubt, please raise your hand, and yes, please.
Yes, well, I'm still confused about name and form.
Uh-huh.
It's not sinking in to me. I'm not getting.
Okay. First, what is the name and the form we are referring to, okay? Form is referring to the physical aggregates among the 5 aggregates. And when we say name, it's referring to the rest of the 4 aggregates. What are the 5 aggregates? Form aggregates, feeling aggregates, discriminating mind aggregate, compositional factor aggregates, and consciousness aggregates. So among those 5 aggregates, name refer to the 4 aggregates, which are all part of the mind. The feeling, the discriminating mind, the compositional factor mind, and consciousness. Those 4 are referred as a name here. And the form is the physical form. So it's referring to the 5 aggregates, in other words. Yeah?
Got it that time. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So the name is just saying the rest of the other 4 aggregates. Instead of saying other 4 aggregates, the term here uses name, but it refers to from the 5 aggregates, the 4 aggregates which are not form aggregates. Rest of the 4 aggregates is referred as a name here. And it will come later also as it goes a little bit. The Buddha will go a little bit more detailed with each of them again, and then maybe we can talk a little bit more on some of them. Okay. Consciousness and the 4 appropriate aggregates that emerge in conjunctions with are the name and form. And then the faculties based on name and form are the 6 sense sources. So the 6 sense sources of the 5th link, the 4th link, the name and the form produce the next link, the faculties of the 6 sense sources. So again, after those, when the consciousness enters, sperm and the eggs, when when the consciousness enters the sperm and egg, embroy, what do you call embroy?
Embryo.
Embryo, okay, embryo. When the consciousness enters that, then there is the name and form, you know. At that time, the name and form is produced. When consciousness enters the sperm and egg, the sperm and egg is the physical form aggregate. And the four aggregates at that time, from Buddhist point of view, there is a feeling, there's a discriminating mind, there's compositional factors, and there's consciousness at the same time. Those are the name, okay? And then with that, over the time, day by day, week by week, then it started to, the shape, the faculty started to develop, you know, in the shape of, you know, the eye sense faculties, the ear sense faculties, the nose sense faculties, the mouth or taste sense faculties, bodily sense faculties started to develop over the days, weeks, and that. And that is the sense faculties. And that name and form produce that sense faculty. If there was no name and form, if there was no sperm and egg, there wouldn't be the cause to develop those sense faculties. You know, the sense faculties are developed on the basis of that, sperm and eggs, you know, and then with many other conditions coming together, then over the days, weeks, months, then those sense faculties slowly develop, you know. So at that time, before the sense faculties are developed, even the child in the mother's womb, before the eye sense faculties develop, even though there's a eye consciousness there, but they cannot see because there's no eye sense faculty to see the object through that. You know, only when the eye sense faculty is developed, then they are able to see the objects by their sense consciousness through that sense faculties, you know. So that is how that is the fifth link, the sense faculties, six sense faculties, okay, or six sense sources, because it's called six sense sources because these faculties are the source for the consciousness to perceive the objects. By relying on those sense faculties, without sense faculty, consciousness cannot perceive the objects. It relies on those sense faculties to see the objects, to come in contact with the object, to experience the objects. Therefore, these sense faculties are source for those consciousness to arise or to perceive the objects. Are we clear? Then it says the conjunctions of the three factors is a conduct. The sixth sense faculty, that is the fifth link, produce the sixth link's contact. Contact. Yeah, contact. Not contact. Contact. Yeah. So the three factors. What are those three factors? The objects, the sense faculties, or the sense sources, and the consciousness. When all these three come together, then the consciousness is able to contact the objects. When one of them missing, then it cannot. When one of those factors is missing, the consciousness cannot contact the objects and thereby experience the objects, thereby perceive the objects. So in order for the consciousness to come into contact with the object and to perceive or experience the object, then three factors have to come together. There must be the objects, one factor. There must be the consciousness that subjects, and there must be the sense faculty, that is the medium through which consciousness come in contact with the object and perceive the objects. Are we clear? Yeah, so those three factors, when those three factors come together, then it allows the consciousness to come into contact with the objects. And by coming into contact with the objects, then the consciousness is able to experience the object, to perceive the objects. So that is why so therefore that is why the six sense faculties, produce the contact. Before that, there is the objects, there's a consciousness, but the consciousness is unable to perceive and experience the object because there was no sense faculties. Now the sense faculties have come into existence. Now all three factors are there. And since all three factors are there, therefore now it becomes possible for the consciousness to come in contact with the object and to perceive and experience the objects. So that is where it says the conjunctions coming together, or conjunction of three factors, is the contact. And again, we will talk more about that later. Also, the Sutra will go a little bit more details, and when it comes, again, we will talk more about that. The experience of contact is sensations. And thus here the translation sensation, I don't know, some people doesn't like that translations. No, in many of the translation is the feeling, the feeling or sensation is the seventh link. Okay. So now, due to the six sense faculties, the subjects, the consciousness is able to come in contact with the objects. By coming in the contact with the objects, then it brings feelings. When the consciousness come in the contact with the objects through the six senses, now you are able to come in contact with the objects, you are able to experience it, able to perceive that object, and due to that, then you have feeling arising. It can be bad feeling, it can be good feelings, it can be neutral feelings. When our consciousness comes into contact with the objects, sometimes it produces good feelings, sometimes it produces bad feelings, sometimes it produces neutral feelings. The feeling arises because the consciousness is now in contact with the objects. Are we clear? Like for example, my taste consciousness or the mouth consciousness come in contact with the ice cream. And now I have a nice feeling. Nice feeling because my tongue consciousness has come in contact with the ice cream. If it doesn't come in contact with that ice cream, I wouldn't have that good feeling that I come because of my tongue experiencing, my tongue consciously experience the ice cream. Or, or my tongue consciousness come into contact with a very bitter very bitter, vegetables, and then experience, not good feeling, bad feelings, not nice feelings. And that feeling arises, or that sensation of feeling arises because your consciousness come in contact with that particular objects. So you can see how that contact produce the feelings, lead to the feelings, create that feeling, is the cause for the feelings. The contact is the cause that lead to that feeling. That feeling arises because of consciousness coming into the contact with the objects. So that is where, and that feeling is that is an experience. You experience something pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. In coming with the different objects. In coming with contact with the different objects. And then that feeling or sensations, seventh link, lead to the eighth link, that is the attachment or craving. I think most of the translation might have been craving. More, I think more common translation you see is craving, but same here, attachments. Attachment to sensations, here it is here. Attachment to sensation is craving. The craving is the eighth link. Okay? So once you have feeling, you have a nice feeling, okay? I experience ice cream and vanilla flavor, and I have a good feeling, nice sensations. Now I want it more, because I'm attached to it. I'm attached to that nice feeling. Because I'm attached with that nice feeling, now I'm attached to it, therefore I want more, and that is the craving. If I didn't have that good feeling, nice feelings, pleasant feeling, then I wouldn't be attached to that feeling because of that. And there will be the craving. So therefore that feeling, nice feeling, lead to that craving, that eighth link. Okay? The intensifications of craving is appropriations. In many of the other translations, instead of appropriations, it will be grasping. You will see craving and grasping. The grasping is the ninth link. Here, the translation, the appropriations, which is not so commonly used, but you see many of the translation as a grasping. The ninth link. So that ninth link, when you are craving, if you apply antidotes and you reduce the craving, then it doesn't lead to grasping. But we don't apply antidotes. We don't try to reduce that craving. We don't apply the antidote, practice meditations, so that craving intensify, becomes stronger and stronger. Okay? And that when that craving become intensify and stronger, then that become grasping. So that's why it is here saying intensification of craving is appropriations. And so that craving lead to that grasping or appropriations. If there was no craving to start with, then there is no intensification of getting stronger of that craving. And if there is no intensifications of getting stronger of that craving, then there is no way it becomes grasping, appropriations. So therefore, craving lead to that, the ninth link, appropriation or grasping. Okay. And then here it says, then next one is becoming or existing, the 10th link, how grasping lead to that. In Sutra here, action that comes from or is enhanced by appropriation is becoming. So 10th link is known as becoming or existence, you know, and that is, you know, the karmic seed that has been planted in the consciousness by the second link to the third link consciousness. The karmic seed, when you created the second link and then it that planted in the consciousness third link, that karmic seed is now being enhanced or activated, you know, enhanced and activated by craving and grasping. It's like the seed was there, and before it never got the water and other conditions such as the heat, or all other conditions that need. Now with the craving and grasping, that karmic seed has been now activated and enhanced. And now because it has been activated and enhanced, now the next moment is ready to produce the result. Now the seed has got water and all other conditions, nothing can stop from the sprout to manifest now, next moment. Is ready for that sprout to just come out like that. Every condition had come together for the sprout to become, to exist in this very next moment. In the same way, now all the condition has come together. That karmic seed has been activated fully, enhanced fully by the craving and grasping, and now is ready to produce the next rebirth, next existence. And so therefore, this is what known as becoming or existence, the 10th. The seed, karmic seed that has fully been activated, fully activated. All the conditions have come together to produce the next rebirth. Okay? And it is, it has been able to do that because all the conditions have come together now. The seed was there before, and then now with the craving and grasping, then it's like watering, it's giving the, the water, the heat, the space, the air, everything that it needs. And so now it's ready to produce results. So that is the 10th link. The emergency of aggregate from such cause is the birth. So now when all the conditions are come together to produce the birth, then next the birth comes. It's just like the seed is ready to produce the sprout, all the conditions are come, and next moment the sprout is coming. In the same way here in terms of the samsaric birth, the conditions all come together at the link of 10 becoming, and next moment, then it produce from that, then it produce the sprout of the rebirth, samsaric rebirth, of the birth. That's the 11th link. The 11th link, There wouldn't be sprout if all the conditions are not there. In the same way, there wouldn't be rebirth if there were all conditions had not come together. But all conditions have come together at the 10th link. And because of 10 link, therefore now there is the 11 link, the birth, samsaric birth. Okay, the 11, that is the 11 link. The maturations of the aggregates after the birth is aging. So after the birth, from that moment of the birth, from that next moment, then it started to ripen, ripen or mature, mature or ripen, and that is aging. And we will come later, there's two types of aging: progressive aging and deteriorating aging. But the aging started from the very moment the birth, and it is the progressive aging. Normally when we talk about aging, we feel like deteriorating aging. We relate with, but aging can be progressive and deteriorating aging, two stages. You can say two stages. I think we like the first stages, isn't it? We don't like the second stages of the aging. So when someone asks how old I am, I say, 40 somethings. Because once I reach 50, then I go backwards. Once I reach the 50, then each year I go backwards. Then 49, 48, 46. You can say that, you can think about that, but your body doesn't make difference with the body. And not only body, also the mind. Your memory started to become less sharp, and many things. So so that is the aging. The perishing of, so that is the 12 link is aging and death. Okay, the 12 link is the aging and death. So in terms of aging and death, so what it means aging, we just explained. And what is the death? So then here it says the perishing of the decrepit aggregates is the death. Decaying your physical aggregates. Perishing, decaying, disintegrating. Is the death. You kind of progress, and then you age, and then you start to decay, disintegrate and perish, and then finally your consciousness gets separated from your body. Your consciousness leave the body. Your consciousness gets separated from the body, and that is the death. When the consciousness has been separated from your body, when consciousness has left the body, then that is what we call death. Okay, so that is the 12 link. How is, if there was no aging, then it wouldn't lead to the death. Again, we don't, as I mentioned, aging doesn't mean really deteriorating. Even if we die few seconds after our birth, someone die after that, still in a few seconds they were aging. Progressive aging. Even few seconds they were aging. So there is always aging and death. And then after the death, the inner tormented of the deluded, attached, dying person's sorrow. Then at the time of death, there's the sorrow. And what is the sorrow? And sorrow is here, when we say sorrow, in this sutra, when Buddha says, then there is the sorrow and limitation and so on and so forth. Then sorrow here, it means in that person who's dying, there's a lot of attachment, not being able to let it go. Maybe attachment, not being let it go of to their body, to themselves, to their life, to their loved ones, to many other objects. That is the sorrow. That is the sorrow. Or their mind being very tormented by many other delusions. Also that is the sorrow. And then also limitations. What is the limitation? The utterance that comes from that sorrow. Then out of that sorrow, then you started to murmur, you started to say, in speech it comes, I don't want to die, I'm fearful, and all of these kind of that come because the sorrow, all this in your speech, in murmuring, all of that is the limitations. What means here limitation? The experience of discomfort associated with the collection of five consciousness is suffering, and also is suffering. What is the suffering? Suffering here, again, in this context, the suffering here means discomfort that is associated with the collection of five consciousness, the five sense consciousness, not the mental consciousness. So therefore, discomfort maybe you cannot see well. With eye consciousness, you are unable to see well. You are discomfort with your eyesight, your eye consciousness. You are unable to hear well. Cannot hear well, or you are what you hear is kind of delusional or some kind of like something mistaken. You hear things that maybe not there, or you hear something that nobody said. That kind of discomfort in hearings. Smell consciousness. You cannot smell well, or you cannot taste. Or you are unable to taste. You cannot taste, and you cannot feel your bodily. So those are the five sense consciousness, and discomfort in relation to those five sense consciousness are the suffering here. It means suffering here means those discomfort that is associated with those five sense consciousness, collection of five sense consciousness, as you are dying, as the person is dying, that they are dealing with those discomfort with those five sense consciousness, and that is the sufferings. And distress, what is the distress in this particular context? The mental suffering accompanied by the attention is the distress. So not only there's a discomfort on the five sense consciousness. Now there is also mental discomfort and mental sufferings. Fear, worry, anxieties, mentally, fearful, worry, panics, all of those are the mental sufferings, and those are what is here referred as a distress, mental pain, mental sufferings, and then turmoils. What is the turmoils here? And specifically here, the turmoil here refer to, moreover, any other secondary disturbing emotions of this kind are called turmoil. And all others, secondary disturbing emotion, all other different mental emotions that it might be, are called turmoils, So then we experience all of that. And then with all of that, then we experience great heap of sufferings. Heaps of suffering, thereby the sentient beings in the samsara experience the heap collections of so much pain and sufferings. Okay? So then again, with each of those 12 links, giving a little bit more explanations why they are called ignorant and so forth. Why is the first link called ignorance? They are called ignorant because of huge darkness. Huge darkness. And it is called ignorance because there's no light. There's no light that perceives the reality clearly, and because it's dark, not being able to see the reality, the ultimate reality. Because it's unable to see the reality, so there is darkness in that, not being able to see. And therefore, because it is unable to see the ultimate reality, ultimate nature, since it cannot see, then therefore there is a darkness. And there is a huge darkness. Therefore, it's called ignorance. It's ignorant because it cannot see the reality. It's unable to see the reality. It's unable to perceive the reality. The second link, formations. Why is it called formations or karmic formations? In the sense of forming, And karmic formations is forming or is coming together or acting, engaging in actions. When you engage in an action, you are doing something, whether you are doing something with mentally, verbally, or physically, or all of them, you are doing something. Are we clear? Doing something, you are forming some things, doing something, and therefore is karmic formations. Is called formations because at that 12 link, doing something, whether with your mind, mentally, or whether you are doing verbally or physically, you are doing something, you are acting, engaged in the actions, and therefore is forming, therefore is called formations, karmic formations. Okay? The second link. Consciousness, the third link. Why is it called consciousness? In the sense of causing to know. Because consciousness is called consciousness because it's conscious of the objects. It know the objects. Know because it know the objects or because it's conscious of objects. Knowing or being conscious of something, conscious of the objects or knowing the objects. Therefore, it's called consciousness because it know the object or because it's conscious of the objects. Therefore, the third link, consciousness, is called consciousness. Name and the form in the sense of mutual support. And the name and form, the form support, the name and name support the form and mutual support, Without the physical body, especially the, when you talk about physical body, it doesn't always refer to the gross physical body. It can also refer to, subtle physical bodies. It can refer to even the subtle wind energy as well. So without the wind energy, the consciousness cannot, cannot exist. It's very much dependent on the wind energies. That physical wind energy is physical, And the consciousness very much depend on that. The consciousness cannot sustain, cannot remain without depending on that. In the same way, the more subtle consciousness cannot sustain by itself without depending on the mind that it ride on. So they're all always together. When the mind is there, the wind energy that the mind ride on is there. When the wind energy is there, the mind that which ride on there, and they cannot exist or sustain without depending on each other. So in that way, they mutually support each other. But even if we don't talk in that way, also if we don't have this physical body, then there is no basis for the consciousness to exist. So our consciousness very much depend on this body. That is the basis for that consciousness. Also, this body is very much dependent on the mind, because without those other aggregates, the minds, mental aggregates, and all those consciousness, then this body will be just not a light body anymore. It will be corpse, dead body, corpse, and it wouldn't be a light body as it is. So to become a light body, to have this physical alive body, it depends on the consciousness. For the consciousness to sustain, it depends on these bodies. And so in that way, again, they are mutually kind of support each other's. Yes, I see, Eloise.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
I don't quite understand the difference between your consciousness and mind. What is the difference between consciousness and mind?
There is no difference. They're same. Consciousness, the mind, awareness, there are synonyms. In Tibetan, we lo, rik, she, sum. They're all meaning same. Lo is a lot of time mind, translated as mind. Rik, translated as awareness. Sheba, consciousness. Rigpa, awareness. Lo, mind. So they all mean same.
Thank you. Thank you.
We just use differently, but it means same. Yeah. I don't know in the Western whether they have the difference or not, but in Buddhism, when we use the mind consciousness, it's referred to the same things. Yeah. Where are we at? Yeah, name and form. The six senses source in the sense of interways. So six sense source are called sources. Why? Because they are the entry gateway for the consciousness to come in contact with the objects. It's through the sense sources that consciousness is able to come in contact with the objects. So therefore, the six senses are like the gateway, entry gateway. Are we clear? So you have, when you need to get somewhere, you go through the entry gateway, go through that, in same way the consciousness to go and come in contact with the object, it go through the six senses, six sense sources, and therefore they are called sources. Those six sense faculties are called senses because they are like the what was that? Interways, like the interways or the gateways for the consciousness to come in contact with the objects and experience the object. Contact, what is contact? The next one, the sixth aggregate, link. Why is it called contact? Contact in the sense of contact. Is a contact because it's able to come in contact with the object, is able to reach to the object, is able to is able to come in contact with object, or is it kind of touch or reach the objects. Reach the objects or come contact. Sensations or feeling. What is called sensation or feeling in the sense of experience, and feeling or sensations because it's experience, something pleasant or something unpleasant or something neutral. Is feeling or is it sensations? Why? Why is called feeling? Why is called sensation? Because by coming in contact with some objects, then it experience it something pleasant or something unpleasant or something neutral. Because it experienced that, so it's called feeling or sensations. That's why. Craving in the sense of thirst. And next one, after feeling, the next leg is craving. Why is it called craving? Why it is called craving? And it is called craving in the sense of thirst. When you're thirsty, you want more. You want more to satisfy the thirst, to fulfill the thirst. You want something, you want some more, and you want to drink more in order to fulfill that thirst. In the same way, craving is similar, wanting more, better, wanting more, wanting better, wanting something else, so that like thirst and not being satisfied, not being okay and content and satisfied with what you have or what you are, but wanting more, just like being thirst. If you are not thirsty, then you don't feel like you need to drink something. Wanting, you don't feel like you want to drink, but you are thirsty, then you want to drink something to fulfill that thirst. So therefore it's called craving, because grasping or appropriation in the sense of appropriating, and is appropriating and grasping, because is appropriating and grasping strongly, more strongly than the cravings, you are holding more tightly. When your craving intensify, when your craving more stronger, then your grasping become more stronger and holding more uptight, more tightly, not wanting to let it go, holding more tightly, and so therefore is called grasping or appropriating. And then the 10th link, becoming. Why is it called becoming? It's called becoming in the sense of giving birth to repeated becomings. So it's called becoming because it gives birth to similar existence of samsaric birth, Yeah. Becoming in the sense of giving birth to the repeated becoming, repeated similar birth, samsaric birth again and again, So you already have samsaric birth before, and now again it gives birth to similar samsaric birth, and so it's like becoming again. It's like doing the same thing again, becoming, being repeated or becoming and similar, producing the same samsaric birth. And so then next 11th, birth. Why is it called birth? Birth in the sense of emerges of the aggregate. And so birth in term, there's new aggregate new aggregate coming into existence, new samsara aggregate coming into existence, emerges or new coming of the aggregates, therefore it's called birth, giving something new. And what is something new? And something new samsaric aggregates, so that is birth. Why is it called aging? Aging in the sense of maturation of aggregates, and we all said before, the aging because in terms of getting older or maturating, ripening, now dead. Why is it called dead? The aging and dead. Dead in the sense of perishing, and is decaying, disintegrating, perishing. Sorrow in the sense of grieving. Why is it called sorrow? Because it's a grieving. Limitations. Why is it called limitations? In the sense of whiling. Whiling. What is whiling? W-A-I-L.
What is
Wailing,
Wailing.
Wailing.
wailing, like to cry really loud, really dramatic.
Okay. It sounds like me.
Yeah.
Limitation in the sense of wailing. Why is it called suffering? In the sense of bodily torment or bodily discomfort. Distress. Why is it called distress? In the sense of mental torment, mental discomfort, mental suffering, mental pain. And turmoil. Why is it called turmoil? In the sense of secondary disturbing emotions, turmoils disturbed by many other secondary disturbing negative, disturbing emotions. Furthermore, so then again, it's giving a little bit more on why it's called ignorance. Furthermore, not knowing reality. Not knowing reality is the ignorance. Okay? In the sense of misunderstanding it. Not only not knowing it, but misunderstanding is also ignorance, and that is even much worse. Not knowing itself is ignorance, but misunderstanding or misperceiving is even more dangerous ignorance, worse ignorance. And this fundamental ignorance is not only not knowing it's not only not knowing the reality, but actually is misperceiving the reality, misunderstanding the reality. That is not understanding it, it's ignorance. So therefore, in Abhidhamma Kosha, which is more according to the lower tenets, Bhavasika and Sotantrika kind of tenets, there the ignorance is more presented as not knowing. In the Mahayana tenets, such as Mind Holy School and Middle Way School, the ignorance is not only not knowing, but is misperceiving, misunderstanding reality, so which is contradictions to the reality, direct contradictions. And that is the worst ignorance. And we can see even in the even ordinary world, we can see someone not knowing the reality is one thing, and when they really misperceive the reality, then it's very hard to change their mind. Not knowing something, you can give evidence, and oh, I didn't know that. Oh, now they have evidence. you can clear the ignorance more easily. Their mind is more open. They were ignorant, but their mind is still flexible and open. But when someone misperceives something else mistakenly, even if you present the evidence and proof, their mind is not flexible, their mind is not open, and it's hard to change their mind. And it's very hard to let go of the ignorance. Such ignorance is much more worse. So here is that fundamental ignorance in that. Okay. So today we will, and to overcome that ignorance is to develop the wisdom relies on the ultimate truth, the emptiness. Okay. So then we do the dedications. So we can dedicate all the virtues to, achieve fully enlightenment and lead all sentient beings to the fully enlightenment. Yawadi nyodo da lama sangye dupyo ne do chi kyama lupa te sala sho. We also dedicate all the virtues that all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, others, and we have created to cultivate the bodhicitta mind and wisdom relies on emptiness within the mind stream of oneself, all sentient beings. Chanjo sem chorim po che ma ke pa na ke kyo ke wa nyam ba me ba ya kong le kong do ke wa la sho. We also dedicate all the virtues for the long life of His own Dalai Lama and all our gurus, teachers. Kare Rave Kore Shenkam De Pendang Dewa Mandu Chungwe Ne Jere Senwa Tenzin Gyatso Yi Shabe Sete Badu Ten Gyoroji. We also dedicate all the virtues for the quick, swift return of Geshe Lama Sopa Rinpoche. Tuzu Changshin Jamgun Gyave Den Zin Jong Peve Kusu Tokoroji. So this is the long life prayer of Lama Zopa, but last two lines we just changed from have long life to return swiftly. So that is the only difference. Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Geshe-la. Safe
you, Geshe-la.
travels.
Yes, I will.
Have
Thank you.
fun.
Take